I gotta be honest, I'm already over this year.
Well, kind of. To be completely transparent, I'm rewriting parts of this intro at the very last seconds of 2018. I don't know if it was watching all the worst lists or the thought of ranking 2018's a year end or what, but I came to the realization that I didn't want to think about 2018 anymore. But the more I took a seat back and reflected, the more I realized that this year did have a lot of good and great songs. The real problem with 2018 is that I just have nothing to talk about with a lot of the hits. This year wasn't bad, but for the majority, it just wasn't worth talking about. Sure, there was stuff I liked, and I do love almost all of my top 10 a whole lot, but for the most part, my favorite songs of the year weren't even remotely hits. And the critically loved songs like Nice for What or Delicate, I honestly don't like them enough to even consider them for honorable mentions. So here's the warning that there are a bunch of controversial takes here, and you probably won't see all of it coming, even if you've been paying attention to the seasonal rankings and the subtle hints I've been dropping throughout 2018. And honestly, I'm not sure what else there is to add at this point, so on that note, let's just do this. My rules are very simple. 2 weeks in the top 40 of the Hot 100 during the 2018 chart period, which is December to November. And these are my own opinions and views. You won't agree with me on all of this. Trust me, I've seen this list. So with that in mind, these are the top 10 best hit songs of 2018. Number 10. I still can't tell if Dua Lipa is gonna be big here or not. The quality is definitely there, and radio adores the hell out of her. Trust me, when a song called I Don't Give a Fuck has radio as its strongest asset, that says a lot. But I hope she sticks around if she's going to stay this good. She had 2 songs this year eligible for this list, and although a majority of people will probably wish I went with the other one kiss is all it takes, falling in love with me. Let's get this out of the way. I thought the last Calvin Harris album, Funk Wave Bounce Volume 1, was a genuinely fantastic record, and I really wish we gave said album more than 2 hits. And now that Calvin Harris isn't making the funk songs, I can't say I'm all that happy, to be honest. And even if I would have absolutely loved to hear Dua Lipa over a Funk Wave Bounce groove, this song still manages to be very great. Yeah, Calvin Harris had my song of the summer on lock for 2 years straight. But to go back to Dua Lipa, her performance here is just so captivating. I know some have expressed how these lyrics aren't too strong, but honestly, I think that works in the song's favor. When Dua Lipa sticks to her lower range, she can work wonders on tracks like this. Her presence has this dominance to it that makes a laid-back chorus like this click very hard, especially for a summer jam like this. I look like all you need. The thing that ultimately won me over and secured this song's placement on the list was Calvin Harris's post-chorus progression. I'm not calling it a drop because the true concept of a drop is long gone from the mainstream. The horn melodies that play off of the rubbery synths on its own is really good sounding, but for reasons I don't quite understand, to be completely honest, whenever I hear it, I envision it under this. Fun fact, if your song finds a way to remind me of my childhood and also favorite video game, you get elevated up a lot in my book. Calvin Harris, you're still on thin ice for leaving the funk wave bounce sound way too early, but if you keep putting out music just as good as this, you're doing just fine as far as I'm concerned. Number 9. Last year, I did my best to stress that my best list was full of interesting or controversial takes, and looking back at it, with some very glaring exceptions, I feel like my list was pretty tame in comparison to this year's. No joke, whether it was a mid-year list or the final list, I saw half of my list proper on various worst lists, and that's before we even get into my honorable mentions. And out of all the songs on this list, I guarantee this will be the most controversial. Also, I can foresee a lot of people trying to call out, quote, bias on my end for this. Let me quickly dismiss that right here, right now. I don't like music because I like the act making it. I like an act to great degrees because I think their music is good. For instance, Post Malone seems like a really awesome dude, and there's a good chance that he's one of the most likable acts currently charting. He won't have any appearance on my best list proper this year. So with that said, you must be wondering what act could have possibly made my list that's been on various worst lists this year. Duh.
It's you, babe, and I'm a sucker for the way that you move, babe.
I'm not even sorry.
The only thing that should shock you at this point is that it's only as low as it is. I've made it no secret that I think Camila Cabello is a good pop star in today's climate, even if day by day I feel very outnumbered in that opinion. But I will continue to stand my ground, even with a song that definitely wasn't my favorite off of her debut album. Let's start with the glaring issue and ultimately what kept it this low on the list.
Nicotine, heroin, morphine.
I don't know if it was the utter butchering of that country remix of this song, or seeing Camila live and hearing an entire crowd try and drastically fail to imitate this, but this just doesn't bother me anymore. Sure, it's still my least favorite part of the entire album, but honestly it doesn't come across as bad in my head anymore. Weirdly enough, to me these vocals find a way to manifest themselves as vapor. Not as in like vaporwave, I mean literal vapor. Take away whatever you want from that. The phenomenal chorus is most of the reason it's here, to be completely honest, and even the song knows it's the strongest asset. It's why the second verse is barely twice as long as the bridge. However, I like the production as well. Yeah, it's percussion heavy, but the rumbling gurgle of the synths paired with said percussion is genuinely great. Honestly, this song was almost out of the running until seeing Camila live, because not only was that night one of the best moments of 2018 for me, but it made me realize just how much I really loved almost all of the songs in her debut. Again, this is definitely not one of my favorites from that record, but it's still so good. If there's an act I'm hoping can stick around for a lot longer as long as she keeps making good to great music, it would probably be Camila Cabello. Now can we please make Consequences a big hit? It's so great, I'm begging you.
I'll never, ever, ever be the same.
Stop! I'm in district.
Number 8. Speaking of Camila Cabello, last year I turned a lot of heads when I put Bad Things on my best list. Although I understand that, I stand my ground firmly. If anything, I'd cut the layer of embarrassment and guilt out if I were to redo that video. That song is still great and I still love it. But with that said, this song is nothing like Bad Things.
Cross my heart, hope to die. To my lover, I'd never lie.
Whoa, Andrew Prep put G-Eazy on his best list. Who would have seen that coming? Let's get this out of the way. The Beautiful and Damned was measurably worse than These Things Happen or When It's Dark Out. The project should have been way shorter, and it has some of G-Eazy's worst songs without having a lot of great songs to counterbalance things. And in regards to that album, Him and I feels very out of place within the track listing. A lot of Gerald's material, like anyone in mainstream rap, comes down to fucking many different girls. So a song about his awesome relationship with real-life then-girlfriend Halsey seems a little weird in that context. But to circle back around, this song is about a famous couple who wants to invoke a modern-day Bonnie and Clyde aesthetic, where Bad Things is about a good girl getting seduced by this edgy bad boy as he brings her to his world. Just because both songs are made by a white rapper and a female pop star doesn't mean they're similar. Would you consider both songs to be similar to Good Old Days by Macklemore and Kesha? Or are all three similar to Walk on Water by Eminem and Beyonce? Give me a break.
Swear we drive each other mad, she be so stubborn, but what the fuck is love?
I've always expressed that the best part of a good to great G-Eazy song is the production he's over, and this is absolutely no exception. The pop dark production in tandem with the guitars blend into this stunningly beautiful backdrop that I just can't get enough of, and that's not even talking about the melodies I absolutely love here. And its groove is something G-Eazy can ride with ease. I admit I've maybe been a little too forgiving of Halsey, even if I still stand by my opinions on both Now or Never and Bad at Love, but her chorus here is definitely one of the best things she's ever done. That being said, you cannot convince me the post-chorus is genuinely her cooing without a lot of post-work. It sounds phenomenal, but after watching countless live performances, it's just not at the same level.
Ever catch me cheating, she would try to cut my...
Did one of your favorite hit songs of 2018 allude to cutting a dick off? Because mine did. My only real complaint with this song is that I don't get what people who dislike this are listening to. I see more people rag on this than like it, but all I hear is a great song. Normally I'd say I hope G-Eazy and Halsey continue to make more fantastic songs together in the future, but you know, they broke up and Halsey has a song about that breakup in the top 5 as this video's new. So there goes that, I guess.
In the end, it's him and I.
I'm in district.
Number 7. I put Him and I on the best list, and not once did I mention No Limit by name. Are you even remotely shocked it's here?
If I hit it one time, I'm a piper. If I hit it 2 times, then I like her.
Every year we get that one ridiculously insane banger that is an immediate hit, and I love it with everything I've got. And this year, it's easily this. For once, I really want to get into the production on this, because this is probably my favorite beat on the entire year end. You get this thunderous backdrop that gets paired with these fast-moving and hard-hitting trap elements, and once A$AP Rocky's hook comes in, they throw in another melody into the back end of the mix, and that brings so much atmosphere to it.
It ain't safe, it ain't safe, it ain't safe, it ain't safe.
It's one of those rare beats that I'm fairly certain anyone could rap over it and it'd turn out 20 times better as opposed to if it was over any other beat. And many acts have gone over this production, and personally it's only fair to discuss everyone here and on the official remix in the video. A$AP Rocky found himself ad-libbing over the production, and in doing so he created one of the most anthemic hooks of the entire year.
And if I hit it one time, I'm a piper. If I hit it 2 times, then I like her.
And then we get to G-Eazy's verses, and again, although he's certainly not one of the most colorful performers to come out of the Bay Area, he's definitely no E40, he's not that bad either. Ignoring the album version's third verse because there's a reason it's the only verse absent from the big video, G-Eazy's flows are all pretty solid, and the new verse in the big remix does remind me of These Things Happen G-Eazy. However, anything G-Eazy could have done would have been immediately blown back once she joins in.
Fuck him, then I get some money. Yeah. Fuck him, then I get some money.
This was the guest verse that Cardi B needed to become the hugest act she became just a few months later. Her flow is killer on its own, but again, when you get a beat that good, anything you say will be elevated. And holy shit.
I need tongue, I need face, I need brain, concentrate, I perform product case.
It's just so good. It's so good.
Can you stop with all the subs? Bitch, I ain't cherry.
Now this is how a female rapper should have a link to a pedophile, with clever wordplay and not by collaborating with one. Twice.
You know me, Cardi B, pussy popping on the charts.
Yeah, this was the best verse on No Limit, and I refuse to argue that. Now from here, I bet most of you will expect me to shit on French Montana's verse, and sure, it is the weakest out of all the verses over this production, but at the same time,
Yeah, I need Camila in the group.
best verse, only verse that mattered this year. This verse alone is the best hit song of 2018. Fuck you.
Slop on my knob, like corn on a cob.
Oh, right, the post-chorus is one of the songs this year that interpolated Juicy J's slob on my knob. So of course he's on the remix. If it weren't for Cardi B, he'd probably have the best verse here. Sure, I wish he didn't reference Tay-K in this verse, but after this year I honestly don't care anymore. Belly does well enough as well, I just have nothing to say about his verse. Honestly, for a hard-hitting banger, as long as you don't say offensive shit, you're doing just fine. I really wish the rest of the Beautiful and Damned had tracks as good as this and Him and I, and yes, even the Charlie Puth collab, because an album full of those would have been something very great. Knowing G-Eazy has 3 year-end hits is kinda weird, but I can't say I'm upset by that either. Oh, and fuck with me and get some money.
Fuck with G and get some money.
I'm in district.
Number 6. I'm a little torn on this stance, but I think I lean towards saying this was not a good year for country as a genre. I mean, there were a lot of really big country hits this year, and the genre has a lot on the year end, but no matter how you look at it, meant to be set atop the country charts for 50 weeks straight on a 50-week run. No genre is in a good shape if something like that happens, and that's before you factor in the song being made by a pop star who has made nothing remotely close to country beyond this song, and who also disrespects the genre. And that's before you even factor in if that song is country or not. And really, after 50 weeks of topping the country charts, this is country whether you like it or not. I personally don't like that, but again, 50 weeks at number 1. I'm fairly certain there's no other chart ever that has had a number 1 for that long. Either way, the genre's certainly struggling. Beyond Florida Georgia Line working with pop acts like BB Rexa, Haley Steinfeld, and of course the Chainsmokers, Dan and Shay tested the waters by releasing Tequila to pop radio. Maren Morris, of course, worked with Zedd and Gray in order to get one of the 10 biggest hits of the entire year. Kelsey Ballerini found herself working with the Chainsmokers, and even Chris Stapleton joined forces with Justin Timberlake. Wait, what was that last one?
Everybody says say something, say something, say something, say something.
Let me be upfront. Justin Timberlake's 5th studio album wasn't that bad. It is not a country record, but it's definitely a lot more rootsy than anything else he's ever made. However, from the dated but still great Future Sex Love sounds to my favorite album, The 2020 Experience, Timberlake has done best when his material hasn't sounded this organic. And let me stress that there were bad moments on that album, especially the interlude where his wife Jessica Biel talks about how when she's wearing his flannel, it's as if she's wearing his skin. What the fuck do you want me to do with that? Why under any circumstances would you say this and then let it it end up on the album? Beyond that, this is far and away the best song on the album, without competition really. The acoustic groove paired with the rubbery low end works so much better than it maybe should, but Justin Timberlake and Chris Stapleton are both great performers, and this is no exception. Not only do they have good chemistry overall, but their voices align incredibly well in the chorus. And when separated, Stapleton delivers one of my favorite moments in music all year.
Melody and harmony.
Everything here just sounds so good, but that's certainly not to discredit the content. We live in uncertain times, I guess. And when you see shit happening around you that you just don't feel right about, and you have a platform, whether it's incredibly small or not, you're put in an interesting place. Like, for instance, the scumbags that are big in music that I and many others gave more than enough attention to in their respective worst lists. But some critics took a different approach. They didn't give said acts the attacks they arguably earned. Instead, they stayed silent, choosing to ignore them entirely. Because sometimes, the greatest way to say something is to say nothing at all. And I get it entirely. The worst types of people are not worth elevating, even if you're doing it in a manner to tear them apart. But god damn it, I can't help myself. It's a constant struggle, because in these huge situations like this, it's hard to know what you're supposed to do. And I think this song sells that incredibly. In terms of who I featured on my worst list this year, and what I said, I don't regret anything about that video. But once again, moving forward, I don't plan on dealing with the artist the way I did. Because again, sometimes the greatest way to say something
Is to say nothing.
Number 5. I'm making fucking mac and cheese, and nobody can stop me. I'm still in awe that this snuck onto the year-end list, but thank God it did. And let's be upfront and honest, this is here for its production a little more than it is for Rae Sremmurd or Juicy J themselves. Just like many other hits this year, this song has some blatant 3 6 Mafia sampling. Specifically, the production and chorus melody are taken from their track Side to Side. And I'm not sure if it's my underexposure to that song or what, but Powerglide definitely improved upon Side to Side's production. The moving groove of it all just sounds way stronger on Powerglide, it's not even close. But with that being said, Swae Lee and Slim Jxmmi have definitely stepped their games up on this in comparison to their bad songs like Swang and even their good songs like Black Beatles. Even if Swae Lee's voice is totally modified to make him sound good, he still sounds good. However, my only real complaint with this song does come down to its length, because Swae Lee did not need 2 verses. Neither verse is bad per se, and I don't mind either verse, but at the same time, the song is still almost 3 minutes long before Slim Jxmmi comes in. But on the topic of Slim Jxmmi, he easily has the best verse on this song. After Swae Lee passes the momentum over, not only does Slim Jxmmi hold that momentum, but if anything, he raises it further. In my opinion, Juicy J doesn't keep up to the same pace as Swae Lee and Slim Jxmmi do, but again, he was a member of 3 6 Mafia when Side to Side happened, so he already knew how to effectively ride this production, and yeah, he does well. Obviously, lyrics on a song like this don't matter to the point where you shouldn't even address them, but sometimes dumb lyrics can elevate a song like this if they're just dumb to the right point. Like how Slim Jxmmi opens his verse by exclaiming, I know he's not being literal, but I get so much enjoyment out of that by taking it literal. And I know Swae Lee is referring to a car when he says slime green paint peanut butter insides, but when you ignore that it's not literal and only talking about a car's colors, it's very amusing. But then you step away from some of the more dumb lines, like when Slim Jxmmi not only expresses that just because this girl's going home with him doesn't mean she's a quote freak hoe, but he also gives a shout out to the girls that are bringing home their own cash. And on top of that, he even expresses that he's dropping the $20K at strip clubs to help the girls go through college. And that layer of respect and even consideration is just really awesome to hear, to be honest. And considering a lot of misogyny that comes in these types of songs, it's honestly a breath of fresh air to a degree. But you want to know the small icing on the cake with this song making the year-end list?
R.I.P. Lil Peep, I gotta slow down on them jams.
I know this is a weird line to highlight, but it does give me satisfaction knowing this song placing on the year-end actually does immortalize the late Lil Peep in a popular music's history, even even if only by a very, very minuscule amount. And knowing the second place song that got semi-close to doing that, I will take this. It's certainly more respectful to Pete. In the end of the day, this song rocks, and if this is Rae Sremmurd's last hit in the mainstream, they certainly went out on a great note. Number 4. In 2016 and 2017, the quote critical darling songs didn't make my proper top 10s. It wasn't because I disliked those songs, but they just didn't have a bunch of replay value for me at the time. And that's rather important for my lists. And although I'd probably put those two songs on those lists if I redid them now, this year just didn't have enough hits that made me actively want to return to them for many months on end. And on top of that, me relating to a song also helps it secure a slot on this list. I definitely can't relate to almost any facet of this one just yet, so it making the list and this high is definitely a little strange considering my history. But despite some hesitation on my end, this song is something special. I'm gonna make this one short because many other more capable critics will praise this in great detail better than I ever could. But seriously, this being a hit is genuinely great to see. The song's about someone who's had secret feelings for their friend for a very long time, and now said friend's getting married. The song's set up so you actually don't know that until the end of the first chorus. You'd think she's marrying him if you didn't already know. But once you know, you get this very well performed, mournful melancholy in the second verse, where he remembers when they almost kissed and he questions if she ever had the same feelings that he had to the same degree. But then you get to the bridge, and he can't take it anymore. He wants to find her and confess his feelings before it's too late. And the momentum during that bridge sells the hell out of that feeling so well, where you can just tell the climax is coming. However, he stops himself. And he knows that he can't mess this day up for her sake. So he takes his strong shot of whiskey to help him fight through his pain as he holds back his tears. And after he says that she wants to get married like he'd been saying in the prior choruses, he now says she's going to get married. He accepts it now, even if it's not what he may want. It's a level of potent maturity you rarely get on any Hot 100 week, so it getting that full 20 weeks and making the year end is just so good to see. Thomas Rhett did an outstanding job here, and if I was able to relate to it, it probably would have found itself a hell of a lot higher. Although, if you want to hear me talk about relatability, Number 3. Okay, after all the attention I gave that whole prom ordeal, you could probably guess that it had a very big impact on me. But I think I should just connect the dots between the story and some other comments I've made in passing. So for those of you that reasonably didn't watch that video, let me do my best to quickly summarize what I'm talking about here. So I didn't get to experience a good chunk of quote-unquote normal stuff during my time during school. I never really dated anyone at the school, or in general for the most part. I didn't get to eat in the caf during lunch, part of that was due to the bullying I went through in middle school. I didn't really have a friend group in high school beyond that one dope as hell class I took in senior year. And truthfully, I can go on, but I still want to make this rather brief. So I had this friend I knew for a very long time. She was like a younger sister to me, and due to a lot of pressure from a lot of people in my life, beyond the normal standards of an average high school student, I asked her if she wanted to go to prom as friends. She said yes, we started planning, she bought her dress, I put down money for the corsage, I got a tux fitted, I bought the tickets, etc, etc. In 3 days before prom, she asked me various questions about said prom. I answered her with everything I knew. Out of absolutely fucking nowhere, she got very pissed at me. I openly expressed what going to prom meant to me in relation to my very bad depression. She proceeded to stab me in the heart and very bluntly expressed that she didn't remotely care about my depression in relation to all of this, and then I lost around $140 in a sister. And if it wasn't clear enough, I didn't get to go to prom. Once again, a more detailed explanation is in that video. But what I want to focus on now is the music I listened to in correlation with that time and what followed. I feel connected to the songs I want to listen to, so when shit hits the fan like that, I can very easily pinpoint the music I listened to in that time. So when all of that went down and I stopped having my panic attack, I went straight to what my mind suggested. And I am beyond not proud that this was the case, and I know immediately people are going to get pissed off at me or call me a hypocrite, and you have every right to feel that way, and you are more than justified in feeling that way. And I cannot believe that I am actually admitting this to over 1,000 people, but that would be Changes by the late XXXTentacion. Alright, listen, it isn't close to this list. The song is really basic, and it is not even a sliver deep in any remote sense. And when I listen to it now, I only feel the situation I explained, and because of that, I don't like this song as much as anyone else who may have turned to this in a dark patch might. All it does is take me back to that hell I felt. Getting comfort in a basic sad boy XXXTentacion song is the perfect way to represent that I was at an all-time rock fucking bottom. Because truly, the way this monster that lashed out at me was not the girl that was my sister for all that time. Whatever that monster was, took prom and my sister away from me. And that's ultimately why the situation hurts to revisit just as much as it does. But to get the hell away from Changes as quickly as I can, the train then inches forward, and I move towards Call Out My Name by The Weeknd, a song that was actually insanely close to the list, but ultimately missed it because I didn't want to fully showcase the low from this whole thing. Because when she was in bad places, specifically for reasons I will not be getting into, I was there for her, and I helped her through a lot of shit. So with Call Out My Name's ties from The Weeknd to Selena Gomez, it, along with Consequences and Something's Gotta Give from Camila Cabello, the songs like Liability by Lorde were definitely the natural selection to go to. And from there we moved to the longest pit stop in this whole phase, and one that I should probably feel more guilty about, Somebody by the Chainsmokers and Drew Love. And I'll get fully into why that song clicked the way it did as much as it did in a much later video. But we sat and dwelled on these songs for a very long while. But eventually, like every shitty thing, you need to try to get over it. And I was just too depressed and overall anxious to even know where the hell to begin. And on paper, and I can't fucking believe I am genuinely about to do this, that brings us here.
Help me. It's like the walls are caving in.
Yeah, to my amazement, Shawn Mendes got very fucking good this year. His self-titled album was actually enjoyable instead of frustrating or infuriating like his first two albums were. I genuinely need to remind myself that the kid that made Treat You Better and Mercy is responsible for making this and Lost in Japan on like a monthly basis. Because where Treat You Better seemingly got everything wrong in the worst possible way, In My Blood is a huge sign that Shawn Mendes is realistically capable of making phenomenal music. And while I could fall and express why this song is great musically, I think I'll take a different approach, because in terms of the content at hand, not in the details that impacted him directly into crafting this song the way he did, but as someone who really struggles with anxiety, who has missed out on a lot of shit because of how much it can affect me, I fucking get it. So with this entry, I'm just gonna express how I plug my own shit into some of these lyrics.
Laying on the bathroom floor, feeling nothing.
Been there, done that 1,000 times.
I'm overwhelmed and insecure. Give me something.
Now, in context with the following line, obviously he's talking about like an anxiety medication or something along those lines. But on my end, I can definitely say that when I'm anxious, I totally feel both of those things, and mentally I'll ask out, give me like something I can work with. Although I'm totally making that more pessimistic than it was intended to be.
Keep telling me that it gets better. Does it ever?
That is genuinely one of the most digging lines on the 2018 year-end list. Because when you're really depressed, one of the last things you want to hear is, oh, it gets better. And yeah, I'm guilty of saying that to people. I'll fully admit to it. But even though it is true, and the sentiment is there, when you're depressed, you just don't want to hear it. Because A, I don't really care if it'll get better eventually because it sure as hell sucks now. And or B, is it ever really going to get better? I've been in pain for so long, and right when things are starting to feel like they're okay again, we just end up right back here at this awful low. Both of those sentiments can be true. I have definitely felt both before. And going back to really dealing with anxiety, the feeling itself is almost impossible to describe to anyone who's lucky enough to not deal with it. But this is a well enough try.
Can't breathe. It's like the walls are caving in.
And one of the worst things about it is, well,
no medicine is strong enough.
This one I definitely get, because I do have a good amount of prescriptions that do genuinely help me to not be a malfunctioning piece of shit. But no matter what I take, nothing is truly strong enough to stop my anxiety. And it fucking sucks. Like, panic attacks are shit as is, and thankfully I've only ever had one outside of my own home, which of course would be when the prom thing was crumbling in front of me. And I'll fucking level with you, and you don't have to believe me if you don't, but after I finished that last sentence, I had a fucking panic attack because I relived that moment again. So I can say with fresh feelings that panic attacks are the fucking worst.
I need somebody now.
As someone whose depression honestly came down to being single for seemingly forever, I fucking relate, woo. I'll get back to my main angle of reviewing this song in a second, but I can't just not highlight that. Like, how the fuck did the kid that did this pull off this? It's just that, like, this shouldn't be... Wow. But that line needed that delivery, because that's the most important piece of this entire song. Because despite all of the shit I've said about this situation, I never really mentioned that I did push forward. It was far from easy, but do you think the musical chart for how I dealt with this only looks like this? Because if you did, you're wrong. Because when in this kind of low, getting out of it is hard, yeah. But like, I can't just stop lifing because someone fucked me up big time, and I can't just not stop, not because like, oh, I have to keep going, because no, I can't give up, because it's not who I am, it's not in my genetics, it's not in my blood. Knowing Shawn Mendes made this amazing song on this topic is genuinely amazing to me. I don't know if it's fully redeemed shit like Treat You Better in my eyes, but it's more than a step into the right direction. So in the progression of music, we're now at a point where we've had it click that we can't just sit around and mope like a little bitch all day. Especially since I had like a month's worth of school left at that point, so I tried to get back into the normal shit I was listening to, but I realized immediately that I couldn't just jump right back in. I was still way too upset, and I needed to find a song that could find a blend between a normal song in its genre's current form, and a song that could also connect to either how I was feeling or what would be good to hear. So, seems like a really difficult task for those of you that have no idea where I'm going with this.
That's true. That right. She sippin' more wet and yeah, I swear get her wetter.
Listen, I know that the Nicki Minaj remix is the only reason this song was eligible, and that's cool and all, but fuck you, I'm putting the original on my best list. In the long run, it had the better streaming and sales, so I'm just going with that. Okay, so I knew this song existed before this all went down, and I even really liked it, and it actually was a light contender for topping this list for a while, but after everything I said to get to this entry from the last, it was going to put up a crazy fight for topping this list. And until my number one came out, it was practically locked. I know it's a weird mix for a song to swap between a brag trap song and a song where Lil Uzi Vert interpolates Oh Wonder's Landslide to reassure himself, or the listener depending on how you go about viewing it, that even though it really hurts now, in time you'll get over it, which is a sentiment that really came in handy under these circumstances. And I've listened to Oh Wonder's Landslide, and personally, I think the sample here clicks way more than the original song does. Because again, that sediment blended in with a standard moody hinted trap song works insanely well. And it's not just the sample that connects to me, Uzi does a fine job outside of that. I mean, sure, you get your joke-provoking lines like this,
No, I'm not alright, but I'm all up on my channel.
but really, it comes out in this weird, charming kind of way. But then you get the lines that are in sync with the tone Uzi has in context to the A Wonder sample, and I feel it, especially here.
If she ever call my phone, you know I got a data.
Yeah, I relate to this one. Because full transparency, she reached out to me a week after I put that video out. She liked my personal Instagram post I put up along with the video itself the day I posted it. She totally hadn't watched the video when liking the post. But when she reached out, she kept saying, we need to talk. Not like, I'm sorry, or even fuck you. And after everything that happened, and I went over that in much detail and I'd rather not go over it anymore, what is there to even say? Like, truthfully. I said what I needed to. This monster said what she really felt after killing the girl that was my sister, and until I unfollowed her after initially writing this entire script, I couldn't go on Instagram without knowing that if I saw her face, I would be reminded of one of the worst days of my entire life, and that I'd get really upset and be depressed for the rest of the day. And I knew I wouldn't be able to keep my cool, because if she was sorry, I'm pretty sure she would have explicitly said it before instead of deflecting the blame onto other people. She probably has her narrative. I know damn well I have mine, and the texts really do align with all I've said. You can go back into that video and into the description's secret link and read the text yourself. Yes, I really don't give a fuck about what's out there in regards to the situation. And I wrote all of that, not just this double segment, but the whole Suicidal Pass video as a way to try and get it removed from my system, because I know that that I'll fully get over it eventually, but I want that outcome sooner rather than later. And after all of that, I'm worked up about it again. And I go back and I listen to The Way Life Goes and I'm calm again. Because he gets it. I'm sad and tired. I have nothing left to give. Eventually I'll find another life to live, and I'll get over it. And for the most part, I have. Again, that visual chart. After this song, we then finally get to Better Now, a song that would be topping this best list if it weren't for the bridge, because that bridge doesn't fit into the narrative I've set up here. I do promise that I'll be okay, but Love of My Life, obviously that's not related to this. But Better Now's still a very good song because it has this extra layer to the back half of the chorus. Post Malone flips the "you think you're better now because I'm gone" into saying that he's, quote, better off without her. But truly, you know he's not as over it as he may try to act by saying what he says. The bridge does reaffirm that, but again, it doesn't fit into the song's relatability to me. But that would then bring us to Purple Rain by Prince because of the lyrical sentiment and how it's a shame that the friendship ended, and also that Purple Rain is one of the best songs ever fucking made. And after that, we go straight into whatever bullshit I'd listen to normally. Because after every heartbreak, you get back on the right track and progress your life. And although the pain doesn't get better, it gets easier. And of course, before we get to my number one, here are the honorable mentions. Already addressed why I liked this as much as I did, but I'd still like to highlight this being really great. The Weeknd has yet to fail me, to be completely honest. Better now, I only say that 'cause you're not around. Also address this. And with how weak this year was feeling to me, I almost put it on the list proper, but fuck that bridge. Have mercy. This song can technically go before changes in a story arc of the chart, but this is also very fucking good. And while we're talking about our Lord and Savior Brett Young, can we please make Here Tonight a hit in 2019? I'd be very grateful, thank you. When I taste tequila. I am amazed this was as huge as it was. I'm beyond happy about it though. If I drank at all, it probably would have made the list proper, and with ease too. I'm gonna be honest, this video being delayed gave me a lot of time to think things over, and now there are a bunch of honorable mentions that I may have missed on top of everything I originally planned on including. So here's a fast montage of a shit ton of honorable mentions. Gonna start with the eligible and then quickly swap into the ineligible.
Fuck you too. My big fat ass, where's my pet? Name go ding dong. Not give a fuck.
Woo on a bitch. Lady daddy da. Slide on me now. I put hot sauce on her titties.
Put your filthy hands on.
This is cheap keep. I wanna be with. You're such a filthy boy.
Pull it with a lemon. Do the weekend.
Michael Scott. Why? Go David Blaine. She like the way I'm dripping organic.
You are hiding a child.
I'm by the line.
In a small club in Minnesota.
Not gonna last long.
I very strategically made this the last honorable mention because I knew that everyone and their mothers thought that this would make the list proper. So I kept the card close to me until the very last moment to keep all you fuckers on edge. So there. It didn't make my best list. It was still a notable contender because fuck you, it's a good song. But if you want to hear about a song that I think is genuinely, phenomenally great,
I said I like it like that.
number one.
I said I like it like that.
For the longest time this year, I wasn't too sure on what my number one would be. In My Blood, The Way Life Goes, they're great songs, but number one hit of the entire year? It just didn't feel right in the same way all the other list toppers have for me. However, sometimes you get that song that after only one listen, you know immediately that that song will be in your life for a very long time to follow. Very rarely will I listen to a song while giving a score for an album, and first listen, I give said song the full 5 stars, but this song did just that. And if you thought my little chart progression thing was actually done, that'd be a fair assessment, but you don't know me all that well. Because after you, for the most part, move on, there are still bad days. There are still those events where your bad depression over said thing gets overwhelming, and you need to get yourself to a place where you can feel good again. And you need to be in a state of mind where you aren't truthfully sad all of the time. Even if it's simple, you need that reminder to take it easy, but to keep moving forward all the same. But in terms of popular music, there's only one person I can think of who could make that song with the effectiveness it would need.
When raindrops fell.
Yeah, God is a woman, and her name is Ariana Grande.
And now I keep on breathing.
I know most of you only consider this a 2019 hit, but after 5 weeks in the top 40 and how much this song meant to me in this year, as far as I'm concerned, it was a hit in 2018. This is one of those few times where every single part of the song is the best part about it. Yeah, get ready, because this is going into detail. The song starts with these gorgeous wind chimes with a reverse sample of someone saying, "But tonight's your special night to do something magic," and Ariana Grande sure as fuck did that with this song. I've seen people gripe on this song's surface point, which is to keep breathing, like, you know, what all humans do. I, human person, do the breathe all the time. I love how air fulfills my breathing chamber. And to dismiss that honestly stupid complaint, anxiety fucking sucks. A lot. But one of the first things people with severe anxiety like myself are told to do is as simple as to just breathe. Stress and anxiety can overwhelm you, and you're more likely to lose your breath and or hold it in without realizing it because you're too busy being stressed or anxious about something. That's exactly what this song's about. Ariana Grande herself struggles with anxiety, and she's said she has PTSD after what happened in Manchester, and understandably so. But I will say it's ironic that a song about how you just need to breathe is absolutely breathtaking. Ariana Grande is arguably the best vocalist we have in terms of who's very successful in the mainstream right now, and this song is far from an exception for that statement. Grande is such an amazing performer, not only for her stunningly beautiful voice, but she just always sounds like she's having the time of her life when she's on a mic. Every song of hers, I just envision her with the biggest smile on her face, and it genuinely cheers me up. But even with her aside, the way they work the chorus in this song is still awesome to me. The first chorus is a little low-key, it feels more like a hook than it does a chorus, but then you get to the second chorus where Ariana sings the first line a cappella just for the production to come swooping back in stronger than ever. You get the popping drums mixed into this sweeping chorus, and you're left wondering if they're gonna keep this amazing momentum or just slow it all down. And then out of nowhere they throw the fucking solo in and then turn it up to a 43 on a 10-point scale. I've seen people get confused as to whether this is a guitar solo or a synth solo, and even if I have my opinion, you can interpret it whichever way you want, and either way it's fucking awesome. But then it stops for Ariana to re-sing the first line of the chorus in a cappella again, and then this happens. Best moment in pop music this year, I swear. And somehow, this final chorus is even stronger than the last. And then the song just naturally concludes itself, and I'm just left speechless with the masterpiece I just took in. I've always liked Ariana, and she has a couple of songs I consider to be some of my favorite songs ever. And I'll get to them eventually, but when she makes a truly great song, it's something truly special. I was rooting for this song to be a hit since the very first time I heard it. And although I'm still a little unnecessarily paranoid that it could miss both year ends by getting caught between years, knowing this song was able to shine and become a big hit just makes me feel so much better about... I don't even know what I was upset about. You know what? It's not important. My name's Andrew Prep. 2019 is already the best year of my life, and hopefully the music will get better sooner rather than later.
Good night, everybody!
Alright. Duh! Is this like in shot? Does it all look like good in shot?
I got her crotch, but her foot's not in it.
I'm gonna take that clip out of context.
As you dab.